Hecarim again. The dive potential definitely valuable for BLG. But WE on the other side, we often see, you know, jungle AD carry picked up in this rotation. They are looking towards the Aphelios again, and in fair play, Stay had a really strong game on it. I do feel like teams have fair bit been looking towards the Jinx a bit more so just because of that range discrepancy, but they will lock that in now. Actually, potentially even looking towards the support roles, so would obviously set BLG to kind of pick, but really with Rakan, there's not too many bad matchups. I will say, however, Nautilus is open this time round. It was banned by WE in that first series, and I think it's probably a good pickup into the Aphelios in this situation.
I mean, just Nautilus Jinx feels like a great rotation here for BLG, and it's everything they could want, right? You've got the hard engage from your support. You've got the scaling aid. I mean, you've got Jinx for Doggo. Let's be honest. He absolutely loves the Jinx recently. You've got the Hecarim for WeiWei. Feels like 3 perfect pieces to the puzzle for the side of BLG. Whether or not they do go for that, they might want to go for a solo lane as well. We have seen that they've started to prioritize FoFo a little bit in their drafts.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the support here, you can get the Nautilus and guarantee you have that tool to deal with. But if you take a solo laner,
I mean,
WE end up in a bit of a precarious position, right? Because they can only answer, they either answer the solo laner themselves or they pick their jungler. And the one that they don't do is going to get banned out. Akali will get taken, which is technically a flex. And this is also a good answer to Gwen. So WE would have to be tentative about picking the Gwen again in this situation.
Yeah, we'll see if WE are willing to go for that. Jayce also available, which has been one of these answers to Gwen. So you could even end up with the Akali and the Jayce. So whichever way around the solo lanes went, it would be disastrous for the Gwen. But it's Viego for Beisheng to finish this rotation for WE, and now to the bans once more. So we'll see where WE want to go with this one. I mean, you could just ban things like the Nautilus, and that is what they're going to opt into.
And I think for BLG, looking towards, you know, things in the solo lane that potentially could cause issue for the LeBlanc and for the Akali, sorry. To be honest, LeBlanc, TF, there was a pick that also do well into the Akali and they're already banned, so could just look towards the top lane. Jayce obviously is open and available. They could definitely look to take that one out. But actually going for the Orianna in the mid lane, which especially paired with Rakan, I do like. I think Orianna's risen a lot in priority as she is able to trade pretty effectively in the lane, while also just being so strong in the later stages. It's sort of like a mix of not only that shockwave threat, but also the utility, the shielding for your carries.
It's also comfort for Shanks, right? Look at the bans right now. These are the top picks for Shanks. You've got the Victor and the Corki, basically, are the other two that he's played, and then he's got one game on Tryndamere, which I don't feel like is necessarily Shanks' comfort zone going for those kind of picks. As the Tahm Kench banned away by WE, would not be at all surprised to see either that Corki or the Victor just banned away here by BLG, just to try and remove Shanks from the game.
They're actually going to go for the Galio, so this is another one of those Roman mids that we're kind of hamming on. You know, the Ryze, the TF, and the Galio all banned, so they kind of really respecting that one of the big threats is the fact that FoFo isn't too present in the early game, and Shanks being more proactive can make a difference. 5 mid lane bans from BLG, and I would love this if this came through. It makes complete sense here, right? Akali, Hecarim really will struggle to deal with the Veigar. Veigar not the best into the Jinx because of the range discrepancy, but still does a very good job at providing the anti-dive that we saw from Lissandra. And they do have the Rakan this time to provide some engage of their own. Now, BLG, you know, they are playing this sort of dive-heavy composition. I think Leona adds up well with that in terms of providing an extra level of engage. But they're actually going to go for the Gwen in this first situation. This is kind of the power, right, off that Akali pick. Taking the Akali meant that WE didn't really want to take the Gwen themselves, and it kind of freed up BLG to take it. But it does mean that WE Jayce is available from the counter with.
Certainly is. The Gwen and the Akali, both on the side of BLG here. See, you have to assume the Akali's going into the mid lane, right, for FoFo, which is exciting as a prospect in of itself. We know FoFo can be incredibly prolific on these assassins. This will be his first Akali game of the split, but certainly not the first Akali game of his career. We'll see how Shanks is going to be able to do on this Veigar. Certainly a reasonable matchup for the Veigar, but realistically, Shanks not necessarily going to want to be fighting, right? Just wants to be farming up and scaling up, as BiuBiu does end up locking in that Jayce.
And honestly, if the game goes as long as the last one did, I personally, if I'm picking champions, I want to be playing at 50 minutes. Veigar is definitely up there, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, with this Jayce pick, this is a really good matchup top. Mid lane, the Veigar pretty good at shutting down the Akali, right? And I think the pick makes a lot of sense in the composition. But I do feel like BLG's comp is just straight up easier to play, right? They have these huge dive threats. If there's any scenario where they find a flank, it's going to be very difficult for WE. WE have good anti-dive with the Veigar, with Rakan. They have a lot of poke with the Jayce. You know, they have the Aphelios who can kite backwards. But I just feel like all of that, despite being positives, it just doesn't matter if there's suddenly a Gwen on your backline, if there's an Akali threatening, if the Hecarim dives in. So I'm a little bit concerned on this one. I do feel like there's a lot of agency for the side of BLG, but we'll have to see how it plays out.
The one big positive is Kedaya has that Rakan, right? They have a way to hard engage unlike last game. And Kedaya, for my money, this has easily been his best pick of the split. We've seen the best version of Kedaya on this Rakan. So maybe that can be the shining light for WE. But on the other side, FoFo with this Akali, I'm feeling a little bit scared for Shanks. I'm feeling a little bit scared for Stay, especially, actually, because when you look at the career stats for FoFo, even just ignoring the fact that he dominated and got an MVP in game number 1 of this series, historically, he has a 70% win rate on Akali over 19 games in his career. He knows how to use this pick. He knows how to dominate with this pick.
And it is a scary one. I specifically remember when we had earlier in split, when it was Bin and Ale, one of them on Akali, one of them on Gwen, they both got a triple kill in that fight. These champions just can do absolutely nuts things if they get ahead. And I think that's a critical thing when I look at this Jayce. You have to be crushing this lane. You don't pick Jayce, fall behind against Gwen, and you should be. It's a phase rush on the Jayce, and this is very common, but just to explain why the matchup is so rough. You can obviously harass Gwen from a distance, but one of the difficulties Gwen has is sticking to a target for enough time to get like 3 ult charges off, right? That's why she takes Ghost off them, because you want to be able to run them down. The problem is Jayce just switches into his hammer form, knocks you away, procs phase rush, and then runs with phase rush, and you can't really get back onto him. So this is a very painful matchup for Breathe. It'll be interesting to see if WeiWei applies some pressure up there to try and put it more in favor of the Gwen. But either way, really somewhere where WE need to be winning on the map.
Certainly do. Shanks going to move in, get a deep ward here onto the chickens. I'm not sure if it was Shanks or Kedaya that actually dropped the ward in the end. I think it was Kedaya as the sweeper comes through for Beishong. FoFo going to be here, though, to sweep that one up. It does mean he'll hit level 2, if I'm not mistaken, off of that first wave. So could be a small advantage there, but realistically, Akali versus Veigar, you're not expecting much of it all in the early levels.
Yeah, I mean, Akali notoriously useless, like level 1. Level 2 does spike a bit, but still kind of just sitting there as Shanks is able to farm up. And that's the thing with the Veigar. Not as much presence as some of the other picks that we saw banned away. It's not like a TF or a Rise or a Galio where you're going to be perma able to roam. It is kind of sort of taking things out of Shanks' hands, and he's really going to be looking to scale up a bit more rather than having that immediate impact.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment to talk about the top lane, because I feel like we're going to have a little bit of time before any action kicks off, as the jungler's likely to just go for a full clear once again in the same matchup as last game. Because when you look at BiuBiu, it feels like he was kind of the forgotten top laner of 2020, where we have, you know, Breathe, who managed to pop off, managed to get himself as a big name within the LPL last year. Ala as well, Bin as well, over the last 2 years. And Bin and BiuBiu were on the same roster. They were, you know, alternating between the main spot on Suning back in the days, and all in on the bottom side. They're both going to disengage in the end. Doggo going to get a couple of autos in. That's some big damage, and a hook coming through. Kedaya in trouble. One more rocket. The Ignite taking, and Doggo flashes for first blood. It's answered by Stay, but Crisp is just going to auto him down. One more auto would do the trick, but Crisp not going to flash for it. Now an all-in on the top side as well. I don't have time to talk history today, my friends, because Breathe is caught out here. The flash stun from Beishong, and it's 1-for-1 on the board.
Fantastic for WE, right? The all-in looks favorable for BLG on the bot side, but critically, because of that hook coming out from Chris, but now this might be a turnaround. Stay in trouble.
Oh, but a TP immediately on the bottom side. Stay survives for now as Chris tries to get him, but Guardian keeps him alive. And it's Crisp to fall. Beautifully done by WE.
More and more in favor of WE. The defensive TP from Shanks really forces WeiWei to back off. They don't finish off the Aphelios. And critically, 2 things to take away from that, right? One, it was a trade of kills initially, but Stay survived, so he's the one able to pick up that big stacked wave. You can see already he's got a pretty significant CS advantage. And then the follow-up kill even more from. And now Beisheng heading towards that top side. You know, so much to talk about, but also the gank top. We talked about how we wanted this Jayce to pull ahead, right? We wanted to see him win the matchup. Getting extra input from Beisheng, super valuable.
Look, because, you know, I wasn't even ready for this to be an actual all-in, because we see these level 2 fights every single game in the LPL, but Doggo manages to make it happen, the flash forwards there, but Stay as well, willing to answer that, willing to make sure that he's turning that one back around and getting a kill for himself, and in the long run, it paid dividends that he went for that flash.
Yeah, critical thing where was Doggo taking the tower hit, ends up making it go in favor of WE. And the gold lead isn't exactly super substantial. This is really positive when we already said, right, this is a lot less active game from Shanks. We see Beisheng. I feel like he always just ganks top around the same time. I feel like Breeze, you kind of expect that. He did in the previous series do a bit better at avoiding it. But that's the problem with Gwen. In those long lanes, you don't have a flash, right? And as much as Ghost can get you a lot of ground, if you see Beisheng behind you, it's kind of already over. There's not really too much you can do to avoid his stun.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Unless you can spot him early on. We saw the control ward in the river from Breathe that stopped the repeat gank from Beisheng, but you do need to have that advanced warning to be able to survive. And Kedaya returns to that bottom lane. And I feel like I've done that genius thing that we can do. When we're in a slow series, you start talking story, immediately the teams will fight. It happens every time. There's no way you ever get your narrative point across here in the LPL. As the junglers both show their faces on this bottom side. Drake is on the map as BiuBiu goes for an all-in onto Breathe, but he's inside the Shroud. Necessarily winning that trade.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. Is you want to harass from a distance, then if Breathe goes on you, you disengage the trade, and you don't allow Breathe to sort of find the value. So I think BiuBiu just trading a bit too much health there, but ultimately saw the fact that WeiWei's on the bot side, knew that he's in the 1v1, pretty comfortable. Yeah. If you look at the inventory as well, got Biscuits, got health potions, so should just be able to sustain up regardless. Exactly.
He's trading his effective health, right? Whereas Breathe has the Doran shield, but doesn't have any pots or anything. So if a couple more of those kinds of trades go down, BiuBiu wins that battle of attrition in the top side. So intelligent play coming out. He's now level 6 as well. So Breathe only going to find this getting a lot harder as that massive wave crashes in the top side. BiuBiu has a bit of freedom to move around the map. WeiWei is here. BiuBiu just wants the honey fruit. He's not interested in the fight, but WeiWei just charges around picking it up. And now we'll have to flee for himself. The Shanks pops the Predator. WeiWei forced out of this one. Beisheng will get himself that scuttle.
Yeah, good moves coming out from WE to cover there. Could have been a precarious situation, but made sure the top lane is safe. And obviously the big thing there is Breathe had a wave to catch, so there's no way he would have been able to join. It would have been a 3v2. Now, this is where it can be a little bit precarious, just in any matchup with the Gwen. Well, I mean, particularly this matchup, because obviously Jayce doesn't get much of a power spike at 6, whereas Gwen gets the ult. But still, as long as BiuBiu is playing it correctly, should just be able to comfortably farm up in this lane and remain safe. It comes out from Chris, but I don't think that really does much.
Yeah, Doggo can get a bit of harass onto the Kedaya, but does need to be cautious, because if he steps too far forward, you know Kedaya will be more than willing to pull the trigger, especially while Stay has red and white weapons. That Crescendum and the Severum as a combo is just absolutely devastating if you can find that 2v2. And importantly as well, in that bottom side, the gold lead that felt like it was huge earlier on. Shanks maybe getting all in by FoFo, but the Shuriken flip just to keep himself safe. That's perfect execution on cooldown, and he actually goes back in. Just gets a bit more harass off. I love the confidence with which FoFo plays.
Yeah, he knows the cage is down, so he can get some return damage. But ultimately, he committed his ultimate, right? And then instantly Beisheng shows up, so he knows he can't continue the all-in. That's a big cooldown unavailable.
Yeah, massive cooldown on cooldown, as it were. Fantastic stuff coming out from both sides. Very good. Good. Bravo. Golf clap, everyone. It's a bit of a quicker game than what we saw in game number 1. Thank God, because let's be honest, that was a very slow game. And it's going to be WE starting the Herald off. Once again, BLG, really, really low Herald rate. Not a team that is really that bothered about contesting Herald. They're quite happy to just play it slow and try and trade on the map. Remember, that's one of the big things about BLG is they're damn good at the macro trades. So if you try and make a play through the Herald, which we saw from WE in game number 1, didn't really work out in a big way for them. BLG are happy to just trade with an auto attacker on the other side.
Yeah, they didn't really find a window to do so. And, you know, they've secured the Herald already, and you can see that now Rakan moving down to cover. Beisheng's heading to that side of the map. There's no window that's been opened up. So for, I was saying last game, it had to be, more than 2 plates for it to be worthwhile. Yeah, they essentially got that one as pretty much a freebie.
Did. WeiWei going to move over to his red buff, clearing a bit of vision. So full information here for WE on where WeiWei is on the map. 2 minutes to tilt that Drake. Beisheng trying to go for the Scuttle Crab as BiuBiu just clears the wave, and Breathe looks for an all-in, but knocked away the phase rush. This is exactly what you were talking about. So difficult for Breathe to close the gap, but he doesn't care. Going for the dive under the tower, but BiuBiu flashes a lot of that damage and will survive.
That's where it can get scary, right? The ultimate slowing him down and the ghost able to run down a target. BiuBiu survives but has to burn the flash. Does become a precarious one. Phase rush not quite enough to get him to safety. He will just TP back up, obviously, and without the ultimate, Gwen's not going to be too much of a threat. Ghost as well unavailable. It still shows that even in the most favorable matchup against the Gwen, you still have to be careful.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, the second Gwen gets the opportunity, she will just all in. She will find that window and just start shredding you. And it's like you were saying before, if you mess up, like if your E is on cooldown as Jayce in that situation, she's going to kill you. You're not going to escape from that one. So we'll see if BB does overstep, because he is a player that has been known to be a little coin flippy, right? Feast or famine sort of top laner, where when he gets the advantage like he is currently, he will build himself a massive gold lead. You can see he's 600 gold up in that top lane, but he's known for overextending, similar to Bin, similar to Ale, similar to all of these players from 2020, 2021, where it was all about who's going to be the next Shy, who's going to be the next guy that dominates the top lane every single game.
Overextending sometimes.
There was a lot of players in 2020 and 2021 that were really leaning towards that style, and BiuBiu was one of them, but he did not get to the top of that pile. And this year, that story's continued, where it doesn't feel like he's been one of the big top laners to be talking about. It does feel like when he finds that situation, he does have the potential to make that happen.
And he needs to be on point this game, right? The Jayce, definitely a big aspect of dealing with Doggo. We talked about the long range, the Jinx being problematic for the Veigar, also causes issues later on for the Aphelios. The Jayce can really circumvent that. You land some big shock blasts, it can just win you an objective off the back of it. Sometimes BLG is just unable to fight at all. See, they've moved down pretty heavily towards this side of the map. No TP for either top laner to join. And WeiWei might try for a steal here, right? Ult over. Didn't even ult blast cone and then lantern.
Yeah, in the pit too early. Beautifully done by WE here. Just peeling off, making sure that it can't just be 50-50 smited. Beisheng gets that. That's 2 Drakes, and it's Hextech Soul as well. That's really advantageous for WE. They have a gold lead this time, albeit it's a small one. Maybe BiuBiu's in trouble. He's going to have to clear this wave as fast as he physically can, because FoFo is here to dive, and I don't think clearing the wave is going to be enough here. But now tanking the tower is Breathe. BiuBiu knocks him away, knocks him to safety.
Not sure about that one.
And he will go down. FoFo gets the kill. I mean, that was a bit of a disaster. Now Shanks coming in alongside Beisheng. Perhaps an answer, perhaps a huge play here, but WeiWei is en route as well, and it's going to be Shanks flashing the fear, knocked underneath his own tower. WeiWei is going to be able to disengage for his team, though. This FoFo is still full HP, just trading with Beisheng.
Yeah, a bit of an overcommit there in that situation. The Alco's given so much space for Breathe to move away and avoid Shanks, but knowing that they've chunked them out, knowing that there's no ultimates available on any of the topside members to BLG, they're going to throw down that Herald. The tower already fairly low from before, thanks to the Jayce, but BLG are there to defend.
Yeah, can Shanks get in range for the plate gold? The answer is no, and that last plate does not fall to the minions. It's got to be on about 1 HP. Beisheng will only get the gold for 2 plates on that one, which is a little bit of a heartbreaker for him, let's be honest. It's now vision trying to be taken by WE around this top side. They know that they have control, and so blue buff will be the reward as BiuBiu finds himself a plate in that mid lane as well. BiuBiu doing a really good job with that hull breaker as well to find himself an individual advantage. FoFo wants to punish him, though. Takes a hammer to the face in return.
Honestly, we've seen a ton of hull breaker gameplay so far where just any AD top laner can potentially pick it up. Whips well into the Gwen, right? Because, I mean, one of the things with the Jayce is you scale very well, you bully the Gwen out early, but when lanes become longer later on, because of the fact that more towers are taken, it can be a bit precarious. The hull breaker obviously not only allowing you to hold up a bit better on the 1v1s, but also just when you have a window to hit a tower like there, you do so much damage to it.
you know, this is not super relevant to the game. How broken do you think Hullbreaker really is? Like, to the point where, if I was playing Gwen, for example, do you reckon there's a world where you can build Hullbreaker? Because she does auto-attack a lot. Do you think that's viable?
I'm not even kidding. I've seen people build Hullbreaker. I've seen people talk about it. You can build on AP champs. You can't build at first, right? There's currently like 2 pools of champions for Hullbreaker. There's the ones who can do what BiuBiu's done here and build at first item, right? Things like Jayce. We've seen it on the Graves a lot as well. Then there is champions who need another item before they build it. Things like Jax, Camille, they really need their mythics to be strong. And obviously Gwen is an example of someone who would build it later, maybe second or third, or even later than that, simply because you kind of need your AP items to do damage in a similar vein. But then you can just pick it up and be this absolute menace in the silent. And the reason Fight's So Broken is it's, even if you're in a team fight, it's still gold efficient. Even if you're grouped up with your allies, insane. That the extra resistance is. Obviously with Gwen, it's a bit different because a lot of that gold efficiency is from the AD, and that's, to say, less optimal. But yeah, it's just a very well started item right now.
Yeah, it's not super inefficient though, right? Because she does still get a lot of attacks off, does still build some attacks off. So not the least valuable. You just don't get the scaling on your ulti and on you. So now into the mid lane go WE as they look to try and finish off this tier 1. Dropping the Herald, they might be able to finish this tower before the Herald actually gets the charge. Low State doing his best, but it's too little, too late. Here's the Herald now low on HP. But perhaps can get a second charge regardless. In the meantime, you've got Doggo just pushing away in the bottom side of the map. They're going to go for a tier 2 in the mid lane here as WE just keep this push going. Nicely done here. And BLG losing a macro trade. That's not a sentence I expected to say today.
Just felt like BLG weren't really there to respond. They were like, okay, they got the Herald. We'll try and apply that pressure bot and trade in terms of towers. But Akali is never going to be able to defend against the Herald push alone. So it's a little questionable. And now there's still that tier 1 on the top side that is incredibly low that WE could pick up fairly easily. They apply some pressure. But for now, 50 seconds on that third dragon, it would be sole point for WE. Would put them 1 away and put it in a very precarious position for BLG. I expect both teams to be setting up down there. Bree doesn't quite have the teleport available, but it is coming up very soon. Should be there in time.
Have to see. 1,500 gold lead in favor of WE here in game number 2. A much stronger performance we saw in game number 1. And it feels like, you know, in terms of playing for the late game, you mentioned it in the champ select as well. All of their carries scale exceptionally well, right? The Veigar especially, infinite scaling from that mid laner. Doggo, he's not going to enjoy that late game because yes, you can space, you can outrange in a lot of situations, but if you do get caught, Veigar will just press R. Here we go, WeiWei with an engage on this Hecarim, but he's just one-shot. Kiting back from WE as FoFo now trying to make it happen, but Stace survives the dive. And this was way too much from BLG, sorry. 3 for 0. It's easy pickings for WE.
And the thought process there from BLG was, oh, Veigar has used Cage. We have to engage now. That is kind of how Veigar warps the game. You're playing around the cooldown of his E to pick the windows, especially with a dive-heavy composition by BLG. So they force immediately, but they don't actually find the follow-up damage. They don't connect incredibly well, and we'll see the replay. So Cage down, they're like, okay, it's go time. But Breed is trapped in there, right? You can see Doggo is still so far away, uses his long-range tools to connect, but by that time, WeiWei is already dead. And then still, how many autos does Doggo get off here? There's 1, and that's it, right? The fight is already lost after the point. And this was just very much BLG seeing a window where the enemy team didn't have cooldowns, but not being on the same page, not being in the right position to capitalize.
It's very lucky, isn't it, that he only got that 1 auto off, because I was a little bit nervous. You know, you were educated in Newcastle. I didn't know how high you could go with that one if Doggo did keep auto-attacking. But
I've been practicing. I'm up to 4 at the moment.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Congratulations.
It's a little bit shaky after that.
Coincidentally, the kill difference between the two teams as I pull off the smoothest segue I think I ever have. It's a 4,000 gold lead for WE, who are somehow massively ahead in this game. 18 minutes, they've got a 4K gold lead, they've got 3 Drakes, they've got everything going their way, and this is what we said. We needed an early game advantage for WE. Well, they found it in game number 2.
Absolutely. And the thing is, they can deliver so heavily. We've talked a lot about FoFo. You know, the Akali is still a relevant threat later on, but hasn't found too much activity in the Viego, sorry. Well, the Viego, yeah, but also the Veigar, the double V's, going to be a problem. And we kind of saw an inkling of that it is very hard to engage onto this composition once again. And you have 3 many champions. It's not as easy, right, as having a LeBlanc. LeBlanc can just dash in, get some poke down, dash out. Even the Lissandra, although we did get that 1 pick on a FoFo last game, it's still hard to actually catch her out. But for everyone on this composition, for the Gwen, the Hecarim, and the Akali, they have to be so close to be getting their damage down. It does make things precarious. And now we see Zhonya's built for Shanks here. Has that Everfrost as well. Remember, it's a Predator Veigar, so he will be taking Ingenious Hunter. Gives him vastly reduced cooldowns on things like the Zhonya's. Really powerful here. And we do have Doggo quietly just farming up, right? Got 2 items right now. And it is the Jinx, who I really feel, once again, is going to be a massive factor in these team fights, because she does outrange a lot of the tools in WE.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question right now, because if they can get to that late game team fight, if they can get to the position where Doggo is getting these autos off and getting the damage across, then yes, Jinx can become a massive threat and can be very difficult to deal with for WE. But as of right now, I'm not sure we're going to get to that point. WE in a very strong position currently. They have complete control. They will be fighting on their terms, and it's not like Aphelios doesn't scale. Here we go, BLG forcing a fight onto Kedaya here. They found themselves a pick 4v5 now, and BLG want a little bit more. Chasing Beishang at the top side of the fight, and now jumping onto the rest of the squad. A great hook from Crisp onto Shanks there as WE forced away, and Shanks will be taken down. Or will he? Walks away with his life, and somehow Stay gets a kill. Doggo going underneath the tower here. Zap onto BiuBiu, but can't find anything more. More autos coming out from Stay. He's dishing out massive damage in these skirmishes. But it will be a win for for BLG off the back of this.
And they'll get that mid lane tower, really big one, as well as an objective bounty on top of it. Now, critically, that turnaround kill for WE, very important, because taking down WeiWei means not really any concern about them going for a Baron. But this is where it gets different, right? Because look at the angle of approach from both WeiWei and FoFo on that Akali. The flank is so vital, because you see them, they have to kite away. Instantly, Kedaya gets caught out, and then the cage comes down, but it's only really blocking a couple of members. FoFo and WeiWei are already past the cage, and yes, it slows them, but it just puts them into such an uncomfortable position. This is how BLG need to approach the fights, and why I was a little bit concerned coming out of draft, because the second they start to find those flank angles, it's really threatening. And need I remind you, we are on a Hextech map. This is the best rift to have if you're looking for flank angles, because you literally can just teleport behind them and nothing personnel, kid.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it's going to get personnel. Certainly FoFo, I think, is feeling like this one's personal at this point, because Shanks almost getting away with it on that one, but Doggo flashes forward to finish that kill. And now, even in terms of kills with Stay, but once again, massively up in CS. He's almost on that 3-item mark. He's half an item ahead of Stay as an engage comes out from Kedaya, but it misses. Goes wide. Doggo having to use the heal just to keep himself safe. Crisp had to flash as well. And now WE want a little bit more. Crisp is stuck on this one. Shock blast in. But WeiWei triple fear here, trying to protect his support breathe on the back line. But he's 1v5. FoFo joins the fray as well. And these two solo laners causing absolute mayhem for WE. Double kill though for Shanks before he went down. Now Stay jumps forward and finishes off FoFo. Nothing the Akali can do. And it feels like this is just individual players flexing on each other.
Yeah, looked a bit precarious because they committed heavily forwards, burnt the Veigar cage, but it just completely dealt with the bot lane of BLG. Crisp goes down, Doggo can't even join the fight, and as much as the backline has come in, Stay now has a Bloodthirster. He had the red gun as well. Like, look at the size of that shield. It's obscene. It's so difficult for them actually to cut through him, and this is part of the reason I feel like they did prioritize the Aphelios, is when you're playing against Dive, he just becomes basically a tank. So we can see the kind of replay. Obviously, Shanks goes forward here, and this cage just basically means Crisp is dead. He does buy time with the stopwatch, but Doggo also can't really do too much. He is auto-attacking from a distance, but then we see Shanks stopwatch. He can't join the fight, and in the backline, Stay is like permanently full HP, just going around shredding everyone, and the healing available to him makes him such a hard target to get low. That's one of the things with Akali is you execute targets, right? Not the best at just whittling them down.
And the thing is, Shanks bought so much time in that one, right? He was literally 1v3 for the majority of that fight. He did more than what FoFo and Breathe could do together to the backline of WE. Beautifully done. And now WE once again are just going to start the Baron. They really don't care. They've got the Hextech Soul and they found themselves an engage. Down goes Chris. WeiWei with another great fear, but he's just not tanky enough yet. Now FoFo in the backline. Beishang trying to survive. Will smite the Baron, but Breathe finishes him off. FoFo killed mid-air. Is Stay now trying to get the autos across. Good stun. Good baby cage, and Breathe has nowhere to go. He can't leave. He's corralled in the cage and taken down. WE yet another fight.
And it's so frustrating to play against the Veigar, especially as he gets more AP, because all the mobility, all the tools that the Akali has, he presses R. Right? That's literally it. And especially, you know, the extra power they got from the Hextech Soul there coming through, it's still relatively even overall in terms of trading. But we can see Shanks feels so confident, right? He just walks up, eats the death sentence, but gets the cage down, and instantly Crisp is not long for this build. Now, it does mean that the engage here, the flank from FoFo and the engage from WeiWei, there's no cage to disrupt it. But as much as FoFo gets that kill, the ult, no counterplay on that one. Just really powerful tool. And then here, Breathe steps forward, but again, you get trapped in the cage. No W available, nothing you can do. This Veigar pick paying off massively in this game.
This might actually be a game win for WE. I don't want to call it too early. I don't want to jinx it, but they're still 4,000 gold up. They've got that Hextech Soul, and they've got control of this top side of the map. Doggo is currently on red buff. This would be a window for WE to just start this Baron off, and it looks like they're going to do exactly that. Stay here, not with the greatest weapons to work with, the Calibrum as well as Gravitum. Not ideal for doing a Baron. Burnham certainly will help when it comes to this team fight. Rocket comes on through. Smite actually used by Beishang very early on this one. The Baron low on HP. They need to finish this one off. There we go. Baron taken. And now the fight. But the fear on the entire team from WeiWei. FoFo in the middle of everyone as well. BiuBiu flashes over the wall. Stay goes down. In the meantime, Beishang buying space for his team as they desperately get over the wall. 2 for 2. But they're happy with that because WE get yet another Baron.
Yeah, a scary moment when you have this composition that wants to kite backwards and you're trapped in the pit. They will eventually use their ability to get over. But once again, WE make the correct play and they are rewarded for it on the end of it. WeiWei, I mean, I feel bad from this point. He's just getting deleted when he dives in. Finds a big ult there, but critically, the cage comes in to stop him from going through. We actually saw him try and take the Hex Gate, but then, as you said, Beishang very early on the smite forces him to commit to finish it off. Huge ult from the Hecarim, but look how much health he loses, even though everyone's feared. It's insane how quickly they're shredding through him in this game.
Yeah, and also with the Hextech Soul as well, a lot of that damage becomes cleave, right? So when BLG do group up, oh, wait a second, BiuBiu, what a shock blast, tries to go for the 2v1 there. I think he was maybe hoping to just catch a singular player, but luckily for Doggo, Breathe sticks around, and it means BiuBiu can't go for that play anymore, but Kedaya for a play on this bottom side. FoFo alone underneath the tower. We do have Shanks off to the side here with his ultimate available. That Primordial Burst has got Crisp's name written all over it. See you later. There is no counterplay for supports against Veigar.
Yeah, and they're the ones with the Baron buff, so they let this wave die bot, which is a bit ideal, but obviously getting the pick, a lot of value. Then the Thresh's safety net no longer available. And honestly, I feel like Crisp and WeiWei are kind of just being bullied right now by Shanks. 7, 2, and 6. No doubt has a ton of stacks. Voice staff as well, which obviously you have so much AEP from your passive. The penetration comes in massively valuable now. You saw that, right?
Yeah.
We've been questioning some of the ults. At least
Doggo
most
has
of them
had some serious ults, yeah.
At least most of them have been in the right direction. I'll say that much.
I don't know if it was a misclick. I don't know. Whoa! Where did Breathe go? That's a bit of damage coming out from Shanks. And that might just be the game, honestly. With Baron in their pockets, WE, a man advantage. No top laner for the side of BLG. They can, at minimum, get 2 inhibitors here. I think they could potentially push for more. It's going to be a reset coming out from Shanks. He's got TP available. If they can get the minions under the tower, they're going to be able to get that bonus damage. One Nexus tower falls. WeiWei toying with the idea of engaging, but it's too late. The fear comes in, but straight onto the Nexus go WE. It's a win here for WE. They've been struggling to get anything on the board, but Beishang is on the Nexus. Stay wants a bit more as Crisp gets onto the fountain, but WE, what an upset.
Find a great win against BLG, and honestly, the Veigar pick coming in